Emma Reed was 18 years old when she broke her left wrist. She had surgery. For the past 10 years, there's been a thin scar on her wrist. Her identical twin sister, Olivia, doesn't have this scar. Only their closest friends know about this detail. July 22nd, 2023. Emma dies in a car accident. A funeral is held. Olivia cries. Everyone is sad. The funeral ends. But Emma's best friend, Sarah, notices something. At the funeral, she looks at Olivia's arm. There's no surgery scar. Sarah thinks, wait, Emma's scar should be visible on Olivia now because Olivia is the surviving twin. But why can't I see it? Sarah goes home. She looks at old photos. Emma's wrist has a scar, clear, visible. Sarah goes to the police. Something is wrong. The woman at the funeral didn't have a scar on her arm. But if Emma is alive and Olivia is dead, the living woman should have the scar. There's no scar. So either the person in the coffin wasn't Olivia, it was Emma, or the living person isn't Olivia, it's Emma. But both are saying it's Olivia. Someone is lying. Police begin investigating. The accident report is found. The body was registered as Emma, but no DNA test was performed. The insurance file is opened. $500,000 in Emma's name. Beneficiary, Olivia. The money has been paid. Emma's phone is found. Last message to Olivia. I can't do this anymore. Tonight is the end. So who died in the accident? And who is the woman living as Olivia? This is the story of identical twins. A car crash, a funeral, and a scar that revealed the truth. Emma and Olivia Reed were born on March 3rd, 1995, in Portland, Oregon. They were identical twins. Same face, same voice, same height, same hair color. Growing up, even their parents sometimes had trouble telling them apart. As children, Emma and Olivia played tricks on people. They would switch places at school. Emma would take Olivia's math test. Olivia would attend Emma's piano lesson. Teachers rarely noticed. It was a game to them. But as they grew older, their personalities began to diverge. Emma became more outgoing, ambitious, driven. She studied business at Portland State University. She wanted to start her own company. She talked about traveling the world, making money, building a legacy. Olivia was quieter, more cautious, more introspective. She studied art history. She worked at a local art gallery. She lived in a small apartment. She was content with a simple life. Despite their different paths, the twins remained close. They talked every day. They had dinner together once a week. They still looked identical, but their lives were very different. There was one physical difference between them, though, a detail that most people didn't know about. When Emma was 18, she fell while hiking. She broke her left wrist. She had surgery to repair the break. The surgery left a thin, pale scar on the inside of her left wrist, about 2 inches long. Olivia didn't have this scar. Only a few people knew about it. Emma's closest friends, her doctor, and Olivia, of course. In the spring of 2023, something changed between the twins. Friends noticed that Emma seemed stressed. She was working long hours, talking about big plans. But she also seemed anxious. Sarah Mitchell had been Emma's best friend since college. She noticed that Emma was different. She was always ambitious, Sarah said later. But in those last few months, it was like she was desperate, like she was running out of time for something. Sarah also noticed tension between Emma and Olivia. They used to be so close, Sarah said. But that spring, something felt off. Emma would mention Olivia and then quickly change the subject, like there was something she didn't want to talk about. In May 2023, Emma took out a life insurance policy, $500,000. The beneficiary was listed as Olivia Reed. Emma's financial records, later obtained by investigators, showed that she had significant debt, student loans, credit card debt, a failed business venture. Emma owed over $200,000. Olivia, on the other hand, had almost no debt. She lived simply. Her gallery job didn't pay much, but she managed. In June 2023, Emma and Olivia had a conversation that their neighbor overheard. The neighbor, Mrs. Chen, lived in the apartment next to Olivia's. She later told police, "I heard them arguing. Emma was saying something like, 'I can't keep living like this.' Olivia was trying to calm her down. Emma said, 'You don't understand what it's like.' Then I heard crying." On July 21st, the day before the accident, Emma sent Olivia a text message. The message said, "I can't do this anymore. Tonight is the end." Olivia responded, "Please don't say that. Let's talk tomorrow." Emma didn't respond. July 22nd, 2023, 11:47 p.m. A car drove off Highway 26, about 30 miles west of Portland. The car went through a guardrail and rolled down an embankment. A passing motorist saw the accident and called 911. Emergency responders arrived at 12:03 a.m. on July 23rd. The car was badly damaged. The driver was dead. She'd been killed on impact. No seatbelt. The steering wheel had crushed her chest. Police searched the vehicle. In the front seat, they found a purse. Inside the purse was a wallet. Inside the wallet was a driver's license. The license identified the victim as Emma Marie Reed, age 28, address in Portland. There was no passenger in the car. Emma had been alone. Police investigators examined the scene. There were no skid marks, suggesting the driver hadn't tried to brake before going through the guardrail. The road was straight. Weather conditions were clear. Visibility was good. The investigating officer noted in his report, possible suicide or driver fell asleep at wheel. At 1:15 a.m., police arrived at Olivia Reed's apartment to notify her of her sister's death. Olivia answered the door. She was already awake. Police told her that Emma had died in a car accident. Olivia collapsed. She started crying. She kept saying, "No, no, no, not Emma. Please, not Emma." Police asked Olivia if she could come to the hospital to identify the body. Olivia said yes. At 2:30 a.m., Olivia arrived at Portland Medical Center. She was taken to the morgue. The medical examiner pulled back the sheet covering the victim's face. Olivia looked at the body. She started crying. She nodded. "Yes," she said. "That's Emma. That's my sister." The body was officially identified as Emma Marie Reed. But here's what's important. The medical examiner didn't perform a DNA test. There was no reason to. The victim had identification. The twin sister had confirmed the identification. Case closed. Emma's funeral was held on July 27th, 5 days after the accident. It was a small service at a funeral home in Portland. About 40 people attended. Friends, former co-workers, a few distant relatives. Olivia wore a black dress. Her hair was pulled back. She looked devastated. Her eyes were red from crying. She sat in the front row, staring at the closed casket. Sarah Mitchell sat next to Olivia during the service. Sarah held Olivia's hand. "I'm so sorry," Sarah whispered. Olivia just nodded, unable to speak. During the service, Olivia stood up to give a eulogy. She walked to the front of the room. She looked at the gathered mourners, and she began to speak. "Emma was everything to me," Olivia said, her voice shaking. "She was my sister, my best friend, my other half. We came into this world together. I never imagined I'd have to say goodbye to her so soon. Emma was ambitious. She dreamed big. She wanted to do so much with her life. It's not fair that she's gone." Olivia paused. She wiped tears from her face. She took a breath and continued. "Emma always believed in me. Even when I doubted myself, she pushed me to be better, to try harder. I don't know how I'm going to live without her, but I'll try. I'll try to honor her memory. I'll try to live the life she would have wanted me to live." Olivia's voice broke. She couldn't continue. She stepped away from the podium and returned to her seat. Sarah put her arm around Olivia's shoulders. Everyone in the room was crying. But Sarah noticed something during the eulogy. Something small. Something that most people wouldn't have seen. When Olivia raised her hand to wipe her tears, Sarah caught a glimpse of her left wrist. There was no scar. Sarah had seen Emma's surgery scar dozens of times over the years. It was thin but visible, a pale line on the inside of the left wrist. But the woman standing at the podium, the woman claiming to be Olivia, didn't have that scar. Sarah didn't say anything at the funeral. She wasn't sure what she'd seen. Maybe the lighting was bad. Maybe the angle was wrong. Maybe she was mistaken. But after the funeral, Sarah went home and looked through old photos. Photos from college. Photos from trips. Photos from parties. In photo after photo, there was Emma's left wrist. And in photo after photo, there was the scar. Faint but present. Sarah thought about what she'd seen at the funeral. The woman giving the eulogy had no scar on her left wrist. If that woman was really Olivia, there should be no scar. Olivia never had the surgery. Olivia never broke her wrist. But if that woman was Emma, then Emma was alive. And the person in the coffin was Olivia. Sarah's mind raced. She thought about the text message Emma had sent the night before the accident. "I can't do this anymore. Tonight is the end." What if Emma hadn't been planning to kill herself? What if she'd been planning something else? On July 31st, 4 days after the funeral, Sarah went to the police. Detective Maria Santos was assigned to look into Sarah's claims. Detective Santos had been with the Portland Police Department for 12 years. She was skeptical at first. "We have a body that was identified by the twin sister," Detective Santos said to Sarah. "The ID was confirmed. The funeral happened. Why would you think the wrong person was buried?" Sarah explained about the scar. She showed Detective Santos the photos. She explained that Emma had the scar and Olivia didn't. She explained that the woman at the funeral had no scar. "If the woman at the funeral was really Olivia," Sarah said, "then there should be no scar. But if the woman at the funeral was Emma, then the person who died was Olivia, and Emma is pretending to be Olivia." Detective Santos studied the photos. She had to admit, the scar was visible in every photo of Emma, clear enough that it should have been noticeable. "Why would Emma pretend to be Olivia?" Detective Santos asked. Sarah had thought about this. Emma had a lot of debt, over $200,000, and she just took out a life insurance policy, $500,000, with Olivia as the beneficiary. Detective Santos understood immediately. If Emma faked her own death and convinced everyone that Olivia had died instead, then Emma could claim the life insurance money as Olivia. She could pay off her debt. She could start fresh with a new identity. But that would mean Emma would have to kill Olivia, or convince Olivia to die in her place, or stage an accident where Olivia died but was identified as Emma. Detective Santos decided to investigate further. She obtained the accident report. She contacted the medical examiner, and she requested permission to exhume the body for DNA testing. On August 5th, the body buried as Emma Reed was exhumed. DNA samples were collected and sent to the state crime lab. While waiting for the results, Detective Santos brought in the woman living as Olivia Reed for questioning. The woman arrived at the police station on August 7th. She wore jeans and a gray sweater. She looked nervous. "Can you tell me your name?" Detective Santos asked. "Olivia Reed," the woman said. "And your sister Emma died in a car accident on July 22nd? "Yes." Detective Santos asked about the accident. The woman gave the same story. Emma had been driving alone. She'd gone off the road. She'd died instantly. Then Detective Santos asked a different question. "Can you show me your left wrist?" The woman hesitated. "Why?" "Just show me your wrist, please." Slowly, the woman held out her left arm. She pulled back her sleeve. Detective Santos looked at the inside of her left wrist. There was no scar. "Emma had a surgery scar on her left wrist," Detective Santos said. "From when she broke her wrist at age 18. Olivia never had that surgery. Olivia never had that scar. You're telling me you're Olivia, and you don't have a scar. So that checks out. Except," Detective Santos pulled out a folder. She opened it and showed the woman a series of photos. Photos from the funeral. Photos of the woman giving the eulogy. "These are photos of you at Emma's funeral," Detective Santos said. "You gave a beautiful speech. Very emotional. But here's the problem. Several witnesses noticed that you seemed different. Your mannerisms, your speech patterns, little things. Things that made people wonder. The woman said nothing. And then there's the DNA test, Detective Santos continued. We exhumed the body. We tested the DNA. Results came back this morning. Detective Santos paused. She looked directly at the woman. The body in Emma Reed's grave isn't Emma, Detective Santos said. It's Olivia, which means Emma is alive, which means you're not Olivia. You're Emma. The woman's face went pale. She didn't speak. Want to tell me what really happened? Detective Santos asked. Emma Reed sat in the interrogation room for a long time without saying anything. Then finally, she started talking. I didn't plan to kill her. She said it quietly, almost like she was trying to convince herself. Detective Santos waited. She didn't interrupt. Sometimes silence gets people talking more than questions do. Emma took a breath and continued. You have to understand that. I never wanted Olivia to die. But here's what Detective Santos was thinking. Emma had $200,000 in debt. She'd just taken out a $500,000 life insurance policy. She'd sent a cryptic text message the night before. This wasn't looking like an accident. Emma explained that she and Olivia had been arguing for months. The debt was crushing her. She'd made bad business decisions. She'd borrowed money she couldn't pay back. She was facing bankruptcy. I took out the life insurance policy as a last resort, Emma said. I thought if something happened to me, at least Olivia would be okay. She could use the money. She'd be fine. Detective Santos made a note. Emma was setting up her story, painting herself as someone who was just trying to protect her sister. But as the months went on, Emma became more desperate. And then she started thinking differently. She wasn't just thinking about Olivia being okay if she died. She was thinking about how the insurance money could solve all her problems. If she could somehow get that money. I started thinking about it, Emma admitted, about what would happen if people thought I was dead, if I could become Olivia. We looked identical. We had the same DNA. It would be so easy. So here's where the story gets complicated. Emma claims what happened next was an accident, but Detective Santos had her doubts. On July 21st, Emma called Olivia and asked her to meet. She said she needed to talk. Olivia agreed. They drove together to a remote area off Highway 26. Emma told Olivia about her plan. She wanted to disappear. She wanted Olivia to help her fake her death. She promised she'd split the insurance money with Olivia. Olivia refused. She told Emma she was being crazy. She said there were other ways to handle the debt. She offered to help Emma, but not like this. They argued. Emma begged. Olivia kept saying no. And then, according to Emma, everything went wrong. We were standing by the car, Emma said. We were yelling at each other. Olivia turned to walk away. Emma paused here, like she was replaying the moment in her mind. She tripped. She fell and hit her head on a rock. Detective Santos watched Emma's face carefully. Was she telling the truth? Or was this a rehearsed story? I ran over to her, Emma continued. She wasn't moving. She wasn't breathing. I tried to wake her up, but she was gone. Emma said she sat there for nearly an hour, trying to figure out what to do. Should she call 911? Should she try to explain what happened? Would anyone believe it was an accident? And then Emma had a different thought. Olivia was dead. There was nothing Emma could do to change that. But Emma could still use this situation. She could still make the plan work. I know how that sounds, Emma said quickly. I know it sounds horrible, but I was panicking. I wasn't thinking clearly. But Detective Santos noticed something. Emma was panicking, but she was also making very calculated decisions. I put Olivia in the driver's seat, Emma explained. I put my ID in her purse. I made it look like she'd driven off the road by accident. Then Emma walked away. She said she walked for miles. She had a change of clothes hidden nearby. She eventually got to a bus stop. She took a bus back to Portland. She went to Olivia's apartment. She had a key. She waited. When the police came to notify Olivia of Emma's death, Emma played the role perfectly. She cried. She identified the body. She planned the funeral. She gave the eulogy. She collected the insurance money. "I know how it sounds," Emma said again. "I know you think I killed her, but I didn't. It was an accident. I just took advantage of an accident." She looked at Detective Santos, almost pleading. "That's different, right? That's not the same as murder." Detective Santos let the question hang in the air for a moment. Then she asked the question Emma was probably hoping she wouldn't ask. "If it was really an accident, Emma, why did you have a change of clothes already hidden nearby? Why did you know exactly where to go? Why did you have a key to Olivia's apartment ready? This sounds like you'd been planning this for a while." Emma didn't have an answer for that. Or maybe she did, but she wasn't saying it. Emma Reed was arrested on August 7th, 2023. She was charged with insurance fraud, identity theft, tampering with evidence, and failure to report a death. The question of whether Emma had murdered Olivia was more complicated. The medical examiner re-examined Olivia's injuries. The cause of death was blunt force trauma to the head. The injury was consistent with a fall. It was also consistent with being struck with an object. There was no definitive proof that Emma had killed Olivia intentionally. Emma maintained that Olivia's death was an accident. Without witnesses or physical evidence proving otherwise, prosecutors decided not to pursue a murder charge. But Emma's claim that Olivia tripped and fell was questioned by many. Detective Santos noted in her report, "It is highly suspicious that Emma's version of events so conveniently resulted in Olivia's death at the exact moment Emma needed it for her insurance scheme." Sarah Mitchell, Emma's former best friend, gave a statement to police. "I don't know if Emma killed Olivia on purpose," Sarah said, "but I know Emma was desperate, and I know she was capable of doing desperate things. The Emma I knew in college would never have done this. But the Emma I saw in those last few months? I don't know. She'd changed." Emma's lawyer argued that Emma had suffered a mental breakdown due to financial stress. He said she'd been in a state of extreme emotional distress when Olivia died. He said Emma's decision to assume Olivia's identity was not premeditated murder, but rather a panicked response to a tragic accident. The insurance company sued to recover the $500,000 that had been paid to Olivia Reed. Emma was ordered to return the money. Most of it was gone. She'd used it to pay off her debts. Emma Reed's trial began in February 2024. She pleaded guilty to insurance fraud and identity theft. She maintained her innocence regarding any intent to harm Olivia. During the trial, prosecutors presented evidence of Emma's financial troubles. They showed that Emma had been researching life insurance policies for months before she took out the policy. They showed that Emma had made several searches on her computer for terms like faking your own death and identical twin identity. Emma's defense argued that these searches proved nothing. People research all kinds of things online. It doesn't mean they're planning to commit crimes. The defense also presented character witnesses, people who knew Emma and Olivia, people who described Emma as a loving sister who would never hurt Olivia. But the prosecution presented a different picture. They showed emails between Emma and Olivia in which Emma asked Olivia for money. Olivia had said no. Emma had responded with angry messages. "You don't care about me," Emma had written. "You have everything figured out and I'm drowning. Thanks for nothing." The jury deliberated for 3 days. They found Emma guilty of insurance fraud and identity theft. She was sentenced to 8 years in prison. The question of whether Emma had intentionally killed Olivia remained unanswered. Legally, Emma was not convicted of murder, but in the court of public opinion, many people believed Emma had killed her sister and tried to get away with it. After the trial, Sarah Mitchell gave an interview to a local news station. She talked about her friendship with Emma and how she'd figured out the truth. "I almost didn't say anything," Sarah admitted. "I saw that the woman at the funeral didn't have Emma's scar, but I thought maybe I was wrong. Maybe I was seeing things. It took me a few days to convince myself to go to the police." Sarah said she still struggles with what happened. "I keep thinking about that moment at the funeral. Emma was standing there, giving this emotional speech about how much she loved Olivia. And I believed her. Everyone believed her. She was crying. She seemed genuinely devastated, but now I know she wasn't mourning Olivia. She was putting on a performance, and she almost got away with it. The interviewer asked Sarah if she believed Emma had intentionally killed Olivia. Sarah thought for a long moment before answering. I don't know, she said finally. Part of me wants to believe it was an accident, that Emma made a terrible decision in a moment of panic. But another part of me wonders if Emma planned the whole thing, if she lured Olivia out there knowing what she was going to do. I'll probably never know the truth. Maybe Emma doesn't even know the truth anymore. Maybe she's convinced herself it was an accident because that's easier to live with. Emma Reed is currently serving her sentence at a women's correctional facility in Oregon. She's eligible for parole in 2028. She continues to maintain that Olivia's death was an accident. Olivia Reed was reburied in a family plot. Her grave now has the correct name on the headstone. A small memorial service was held, attended by the few people who had truly known and loved Olivia. The case officially closed with Emma's conviction, but questions remain. Questions that may never be fully answered. Did Emma plan to kill Olivia from the beginning? Or did Olivia's death really happen by accident, and Emma simply took advantage of a terrible situation? Why did Olivia agree to meet Emma that night? Did she suspect something? Or did she genuinely believe she was going to help her sister? And what about the message Emma sent the night before? I can't do this anymore. I can't keep living like this. Was she about to make a choice she could never take back? Or was it just a moment of panic, captured in words? Emma still insists it was an accident. Prosecutors believe it was premeditated murder. The truth lies somewhere in between, known only to Emma herself, and perhaps not even to her. Perhaps the line between accident and intention has become so blurred in Emma's mind that she no longer knows where one ended and the other began. What we do know is this. Two identical twins looked so much alike that one could become the other. A scar on a wrist was the only difference, and that scar became the key to unraveling a deception that almost worked. Sarah Mitchell still thinks about that funeral, about standing next to Emma, believing she was Olivia, about holding Olivia's hand and offering comfort, about not realizing until days later that she'd been comforting the wrong twin. The hardest part, Sarah said, is knowing that I was there. I saw her. I looked right at her arm, and I almost didn't notice. If I hadn't gone home and looked at those photos, if I hadn't trusted what I remembered about Emma's scar, Emma would have gotten away with it. Olivia would still be buried under Emma's name, and Emma would be living Olivia's life. Sometimes the smallest details are the most important. A scar, 2 inches long. That's all it took to reveal the truth. Emma Reed became Olivia Reed at a funeral. She cried for a sister who was gone. She collected insurance money. She started a new life, but a scar she didn't have gave her away. And now she sits in prison, still claiming it was all just a terrible accident. The case is closed. The verdict has been delivered, but the question remains. Did Emma kill Olivia? Or did fate create an opportunity that Emma simply couldn't resist? Only Emma knows for sure. And she's not telling.